Kenny Wallace and Bobby Labonte. Both were brothers of Winston Cup champions. Both went into the 1991 Busch Series season with something to prove. And by mid-April, both had captured their first career Busch Series victories. The two would proceed to put on a battle for the ages for the 1991 Busch Series championship. It all came down to an accident that would help change the course of Kenny Wallace's career. Kenny Wallace was the first to make it to victory lane that season in late March at Volusia County in Florida. He dominated that day, leading the final 127 of the event's 200 laps. But here's the rest of the story. Rusty Wallace, Kenny's older brother, met him at the airport in North Carolina, and Rusty proceeded to swipe Kenny's trophy.
When we land, we kind of puttered up there, and I opened the door, and I stuck that trophy out, and Rusty said, "Give me that damn trophy. That's mine. You're not getting it back." I'm like, no. I was like, that's the only thing I got,
It took a while, but Kenny did eventually reclaim the trophy.
When he wasn't looking one day and forgot, like 10 years later. Literally.
You swiped your own trophy back.
I just stole it. and he never noticed, because at that time he's on to his own thing.
Yeah.
And we actually still got those two. I got the real one. I got the copy.
Bobby scored his first win just 3 races later at Bristol. Side note, that was the first race for which I was a credentialed member of the media. Bobby went to the top of the Busch Series standings following South Boston's event in early May and stayed there for the next 10 races until Wallace scored his second victory of the season, this one at New Hampshire. Then, beginning at Darlington on the last day of August, Bobby and Kenny would trade the point lead in each of the next 5 races in this season-long battle for Busch Series supremacy. Yeah, I said it, and I'm not taking it back. There was Darlington, and then Richmond, Dover, and then Charlotte, where Dale Earnhardt was parked by NASCAR for punting Phil Parsons early in the race. Labonte was one of 7 cars damaged in the incident that followed.
What I vividly remember was, we had that crash. We come down pit road, and we're working on it. Everybody's working on it. And, I remember Steve Meal. I'm looking out the right side window, and here's Steve Meal is. And he leaned his head in the car, and he was like, "Don't worry, we're going to get this." And I'm like, what the heck is Steve Meal doing here? My first thought was, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
Because I wasn't expecting to see Steve working on the car, because we worked together years at Hagen, but we're not working on the car then. So I just
he was a
that.
Ford guy then, and you were driving a GM product.
Yeah.
Oldsmobile.
Well,
so,
I don't. Back then, it was just helping friends out.
Okay.
And he leaned in there. We're gonna get this. It's all right. I'm like, okay.
Going into the next race at New Hampshire, Kenny's lead over Bobby stood at just 33 points with 3 races remaining. New Hampshire would not be nearly as good to Wallace this time around as it had been earlier in the season. A late race wreck dropped Kenny to second in the standings, 42 points behind Bobby. And that was the good news.
So you see me doing this right now. So here's the deal. That moment is the epitome, and that moment destroyed my career. That was the end of Kenny Wallace. Loudon, New Hampshire, 1991. Going down the back straightaway, left rear trailing arm broke, a weld. Something broke. I go down into 3. Now, mind you, let me remind you, all I got to do is just run in the top 10 in these races, and I'm going to be the champion.
Yeah.
Because I had like a 200-something point lead, or more than that. And all of a sudden, I'm spinning around backwards like this, and here's the wall, and my head comes out. And he hits kind of the C-pillar of the race car. So here's my head, and here's this thing here. I hit the window net, and I hit my head. Yeah. So anyway, the corner worker tells me, "Get out, sit down, Kenny." And that was it. I get out, I sit down, and I know I felt like I was at home sleeping, and I hear Kenny. I open my eyes up, and I'm laying on the racetrack in turns 3 and 4 at Loudon, New Hampshire. I had what they call a positional vertigo, where I'll just make it simple. It's what Dr. Petty explained to me. There's a gyro in all our heads, and that gyro tells you when you're turning right, up, and my gyro was destroyed, and I was throwing up everywhere.
Rusty got in Kenny's car during an early caution at Rockingham and proceeded to take it to a third-place finish, 5 spots better than Bobby. That didn't sit well with Bob Labonte, Bobby's dad.
We go to Rockingham the next weekend. I think Rusty drives the car. And I guess he had to start it, I'm sure, for points, but Rusty ended up racing it. Well, I knew my dad was pissed. Yeah. Shouldn't be letting Rusty Wallace drive this car because he's a Cup guy, yada, yada, yada. And then I was like, bring it on, right? I mean, so what? I mean, I guess I had enough confidence in it. I didn't really worry about it. I had enough feel for our team and everything that we were doing that we were, we weren't guaranteed, but we were definitely, I thought we were strong enough to beat him. When he had that crash at New Hampshire, obviously that put it more in our favor. And then when Rusty, stepped in and drove it again, my dad was mad the whole time. And so ended up, we finished pretty close to each other. It was kind of a null moment, hell, I'm thinking, this is awesome, Rusty Wallace driving. We're racing against Rusty Wallace, right?
Still, Kenny's shot at the championship was over. Bobby finished 5th in the season finale at Martinsville, while Kenny was plagued officially with brake problems. Unofficially, he was still battered and beaten from the New Hampshire debacle.
I couldn't race the next week. I could not run Rockingham, and I simply lost the championship. Because I wasn't in my right mind. I come back to win a lot more after that. I came back in the following years to win way more, but that moment, is the moment that just devastated me. I to this day, I've never got over it. And here's why. Because I was the champion. I was going to win that championship. No, there was just nothing to it. I was going to win it. And back in those days, you kind of wanted a little feather in your cap. You know what I mean? Now, I'm not saying that championship would have defined me, but it just knocked me out. I mean, literally knocked me out.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people, and it could have been one of you all. For the next 6 months, the rumor going, man, Kenny Wallace is not the same. And I wasn't.
The New Hampshire accident and losing out on the championship were disappointing enough all on their own. But yet another devastating blow was waiting during the off-season. Kenny made a handful of Winston Cup appearances for Team 3 car owner Sam McMahon in 1991 in preparation for a full-time move in 1992. The team had already made headlines for all the wrong reasons, but Kenny hoped for the best. It didn't happen. The deal fell apart just days before everybody else headed for Daytona in the 1992 season opener.
See, I don't whine, I don't cry. I'm a big boy.
Yeah.
But when I told you things just got harder, I forgot all about that. And that's one reason it got harder. So Rusty sells our Busch Grand National team because I'm going to drive for Sam McMahon.
Yeah.
I'm going Cup.
Yeah.
3 years in the Busch Grand National Series, things went good, didn't get the championship, but now, things went good. So Rusty sells the team. And I mean, all this stuff happens from, let's say the end of the year was October or November, whatever. Let's say the end of the year was November.
Yeah.
November, December, January, 3 months, my career literally obliterated. I'm going to drive for Sam McMahon. He goes to friggin' prison for taking his investors' money and selling on the race and taking all that money, and spending it on the race team.
Yeah.
Okay? So now we're scrambling.
After everything he had been through in the previous 5 months, Kenny Wallace drove his Felix Sabates-owned car to victory lane at Martinsville in March 1992. It was the Busch Series, not Winston Cup. but still, it had to have been the sweetest win of Kenny Wallace's career.